Okay. Now here embryo. Embryo develops at the micropylar end. Already I tell you, embryo, where does they develop? At the micropylar end, because egg cell is located toward the synergids. That's why embryo develops at the micropylar end of the embryo sac where the zygote is located. That is the reason why it develops at the most zygote divide only after certain amount of endosperm is formed. When endosperm starts, that means endosperm start division, right? It store food. Then embryo starts also division. This is an adaptation to provide assured nutrition to the developing embryo. Though the seed differ greatly in early stage of embryo development, right? There is embryogeny. Embryo development is what is also called as embryogeny, are similar in case of both monocotyledons and dicotyledons. In monocot and dicot it is same. Same is what? First division is transfer division, one large and one small cell is formed, basal cell and apical cell is formed. Now basal cell, it only divides through transverse division and forms a 6 to 10 cell long filamentous structure which is called as suspensor in both case, right? And the lower cell which is called embryonal cell toward the chalaza cell, right? Chalaza side, it is embryonal cell. It divides, means it divides in all direction and forms a globular embryo. Then it is converted to heart shape embryo, and then after it is a mature embryo. So early stage is same in both cases, right? And figure it is given here, stage of embryogeny in a dicotyledonous embryo, right? The zygote gives rise to a proembryo first. Proembryo is formed with subsequently, that means in sequence, step by step, into the globular, then heart shaped, and then a mature embryo is formed. This is the sequence. First proembryo is formed, then now proembryo, it is developed into a globular embryo, that is global, then heart shaped embryo formed and mature embryo is formed. A typical dicotyledonous embryo consists of an embryonal axis. Embryonal axis means it is present in between plumule and radicle and also two cotyledons, right? The portion of embryonal axis above the level of cotyledon is called epicotyle. I'll tell you, right? Which terminates with the plumule. This epicotyle which terminate with plumule, that is between plumule and cotyledon, which one is present? Epicotyle is present, or stem tip. The cylindrical portion below the level of cotyledons, below the cotyledon, this is called hypocotyle. Hypo means below and cotyle comes from cotyledons, epi means above and cotyle come from cotyledons, right? That terminates at its lower end in the radicle. So below the that means in between radicle and that is our which one? Epicotyle, it is called hypocotyle. In between the radicle and the cotyledons, it is hypocotyle. In between the plumule and the cotyledons, it is epicotyle. That terminates into or root tip. The root tip is covered with root cap, which protect the roots from friction through soil. Embryo of monocotyledons possess, what is given? Embryo of monocotyledon possess only one cotyledon, right? And in the grass family means which family? It is Poaceae, or it is also called as Graminy family, right? It is in our syllabus, NEET syllabus. The cotyledon is called as scutellum. This cotyledon is called as scutellum, right? That is situated toward one side, only one side, that is one lateral side of the embryonal axis, right? Another side, a small vestigial part is present which is called epiblast. This is actually vestigial cotyledon, right? At its lower end, the embryonal axis has the radicle and root cap enclosed in an undifferentiated radicle and root cap enclosed in an undifferentiated primordia, right? Sheath covering, that is called coleorhiza. Rhiza come from root, right? Okay. the portion of the embryonal axis above the level of attachment of scutellum. Look, above the level of scutellum is what? Above the level of cotyledon. It is called as epicotyle, and epicotyle has a shoot apex and few leaf primordia. Leaf means, primordia means this time it is undifferentiated part, right? But one thing is confirmed, that this leaf primordia after some time it forms leaf, right? Enclosed in a hollow foliar structure which is also enclosed in a leaf like structures, and this sheath is called coleoptile, right? Here also epicotyle, hypocotyle is present, and same thing is there. Epicotyle means above the cotyledon, hypocotyle means below the cotyledons, right? Soak a few seeds in water. When we soak few seeds in water, say whether it is wheat or maize or peas or chickpeas, monocot, dicot or dicot, groundnut also dicot, overnight, in all the night, what happens? Then in morning, split the seed and observe the various parts of the embryo. We can understand, we can see this one, right? The first germinating part is not a plumule, it is radicle. So first radicle is developed, and then after plumule is developed, right? Of the embryo and the seeds. We can understand, seed means cotyledons and embryo means, we can understand which one is plumule, which one is radicle. The first radicle is developed, then plumule is developed, right? We also see hypocotyle and epicotyle at the time, and because they are germinating seeds, so we can understand very well by seeing this germinating seeds, sprouting seeds, we can say. Now here seed, what is given in seed? Because here seeds, what is seed? Seed means a developed ovule is called seed, right? In angiosperm, the seed is final product of sexual reproduction. These are the final product of sexual reproduction. What is seed? Seed is the final product of sexual reproduction, or we can say a developed ovule is called seed. It is often described as a fertilized ovule, right? Seeds are formed inside the fruit. That's why they are angiosperm. Angiosperm is covered seed. The seed is covered by fruit. So they are formed inside the fruit. A seed typically consists of seed coats. Seed coats means these are integuments, outer integument, inner integument, right? Cotyledons, two cotyledons is there, and an embryonal axis. So these are three components which is present in seed. First integument, testa and tegumen, right? Outermost is testa, then after tegumen, then two cotyledons. If it is a dicot, two cotyledons, monocot means only one cotyledon, that scutellum is present, and an embryonal axis in both cases. The cotyledons out of the embryo are simple structure. They are simple structure. They are made up of only parenchymatous cells. They only store foods, right? Generally thick and swollen due to the storage of food reserves, as in legumes. As in legumes means leguminaceae families, right? These mature seeds may be non-albuminous, means if they have no food reserve, that means they are called non-albuminous, or they may be, it is also called as X-albuminous, because here endosperm is already consumed, totally consumed by the developing embryo. That's why here these are called non-albuminous or X-albuminous. Primarily they have endosperm, but after, because embryo consumed the whole endosperm, it becomes X-albuminous, right? Or we can say also it is called non-endospermic seeds. Non-albuminous seeds have no residual endosperm, as it is completely consumed during embryo development. It is totally consumed, that means no endosperm is present. As for example, pea, groundnut, legumes, both are legumes, right? Pisum sativum, this one is called, this one hypogea, right? Albuminous seeds retain a part of endosperm. Albuminous means in which endosperm is persistent, or endosperm is not totally consumed, partially consumed only. So, and albuminous seed retain a part of endosperm, as it is not completely used up by embryonic development, right? That is monocots like wheat, maize, barley and castor Castor means it is a dicot. This is a dicot, right? Occasionally, sometime in some seed such as black pepper, this black pepper and beet, right? These are dicots. Remnant of nucellus are also persistent. Look here, nucellus, it is not endosperm. Remnant of nucellus is present, and this residual or persistent nucellus is called perisperm. Perisperm is remnants, remaining nucellus part, right? So perisperm is present. It is called perisperm. What is perisperm? Nucellus. As for example, black pepper, and another one is given here. Which one? Beet. Integuments of ovules harden as tough protective seed coats, right? Because they are made up of sclerenchyma cells. Sclerenchyma means sclerids, right? So these integuments are made up of dead cells. So they are hard, right, and tough because they have to protect the seed coats. The micropyle remains as a small pore. This micropyle remains as a small pore. It is also present in seeds, right, in the seed coat, and this facilitates, this small pore, it facilitates the entry of oxygen, because oxygen is also important for metabolic activities, and water in the seed during germination, right? As the seed matures, its water content is reduced and seed becomes relatively dry, but it is not, we cannot say it is 0%. Never it becomes 0% because metabolic activity, it needs water. So what is, it is 10 to 15% moisture by mass, then it is called a dry seed, right? The general metabolic activities of the embryo slow down but not stop. Stop means dead. The metabolic activity is slow down because metabolic activity is present. That's why in granary, what happens when we go into the granary, we feel some warm, right? The embryo may enter a state of inactivity. Very slow activity means we can say it is inactive, and this is called dormancy, or commonly we use term seed dormancy, right? Or if favorable conditions are available, then what happens? That means adequate, sufficient amount of moisture, oxygen and suitable temperature, 20 to 30 degrees centigrade temperature is available, then they start germinate, right? As ovule matures into seeds, the ovary, now second, this is the seed, about the seed, right? Two types of seed we understand here, albuminous and which is we can say non-albuminous or ex-albuminous. Another one is albuminous seeds or endospermic seeds, right? Or another term we have perisperm. Perisperm is what? That remnants of nucellus is called perisperm, as for example in black pepper or beet. Okay. Now here, seed is dry means what? It is 10 to % of moisture by mass is present, then it is considered as dry, right? And when the moisture becomes more than 70% or 80%, then it starts germinates, right? A ovule matures it into seed, the ovary develop into a fruit. What is a fruit? A developed ovary is considered as food, right? The transformation of ovules into seed and ovary into fruit proceeds simultaneously, means say at the same time, right? The wall of ovary develop into the wall of fruit, and this wall of fruit is called as pericarp, right? That is called pericarp. This pericarp is also further divided into three parts in fleshy fruits. As for example, we can say epicarp, mesocarp and endocarp. As for example, already it is given in our NCERT morphology chapter. Epicarp, in mango what happens? Epicarp, it is we cannot eat epicarp. Mesocarp, it is edible, right, fleshy, and endocarp is hard, stony. So pericarp, it is the covering of ovary wall. The fruit may be fleshy as in guava, orange, mango, extra. Already I tell you different types of fruit in our morphology, right? Or it may be dry as in groundnut, mustard, extra, right? Groundnut means lomentum, schizocarpic fruit. Mustard means it is siliqua, right? This is dehiscent fruits. Guava, it is a type of which fruit? This one, right? This orange, citrus, mango, drupe, this guava, berry. These are succulent, 7 succulent type of fruits are there. And okay, and this dry means what? We have 3 types of first dry, that is dehiscent, indehiscent and schizocarpic, right? Now this indehiscent is also 4 type dehiscent, 4 type indehiscent, 4 type of schizocarpic fruits are there. Already we read in that is morphology, you can see, right, in the video of my morphology in flowering kingdoms. Many fruits have evolved mechanism for dispersal of seeds. Recall the classification of fruits. You have to go into my another lecture, that is morphology of flowering plants. You can understand about the different type of fruits, right? Fruits and their dispersal mechanism that you have studied in an earlier class, means in 11th portion we already read, right? Already I tell you which chapter it is, morphology of flowering plants. Is there any relationship between number of ovules in an ovary and the number of seeds present in a fruit? Yes, right? Any relationship is there? Number of ovules are always equal to number of seeds, right? Because these ovules are developed into seed. First thing is there. Now here, if number of ovules are more in a single ovary, that means what we can say here, these are ovary with many ovules. Single ovule means only a single seed is formed. As for example, in papaya, many seeds are there, means many ovules are there, right? Here in mango, only one seed is there, it is only one ovule is there. In most plant, by the time of the fruit develop from the ovary, other floral part degenerate and fall off. Other floral part means petals, sepals, we can say calyx, corolla, that is androecium, stamens, right? Stigma also, and that is style also, it is degenerate and fall off. But sometime what happens in case of like a brinjal, right, in a tomato, their calyx is persistent, right? But mostly what happens, other parts are degenerate and fall off. However, in few species such as apple, strawberry, cashews, etc., fruit is not developed, that is it is not a true fruit because it is not developed through ovary, right? An ovary is not developed, but what happens, other part of the flower is developed. Other part means what? Here thalamus is developed into a fruit. Thalamus also contribute to fruit formation, and such fruits are called false fruit. Why they are called false fruit? Because they develop from thalamus, not from ovary. That's why they are called as false fruit, right? Most fruit, however, develop only from ovary and they are called as true fruits. Now here it is what is given here. Here given, if a fruit develop from ovary, it is considered as true fruit, and a fruit which is developed from other part of the flower, maybe thalamus or other thing, so they are considered as false fruit. These false fruit, they comes into the pome fruit, that if they are also fleshy and they comes into the pome fruit, they are, we can say pome fruit, right? Example is also given here, like what? Strawberry, cashew, that apple also. Although in most of the species, fruits are the result of fertilization. Fruit are the result of fertilization, means after fertilization, ovary develop into fruit, ovary develop into seed. But sometime what happens, without fertilization, a fruit is formed, ovary is developed into a fruit, and then this fruit is called parthenocarpic fruit. There are few species in which fruit is not developed through, in which fruit develop without fertilization. When a fruit develop without fertilization, such fruits are called parthenocarpic fruit, right? But sometimes what happens, parthenocarpic fruit is not that is good, right? In which plant, that is, suppose that we in plant like pomegranate, seeds are edible, right? When seeds or endosperm is edible, then parthenocarpic or parthenogenesis is useless, right? Because when seed is not formed, that means what we eat. So parthenocarpic fruit means what? Seedless fruit without fertilization. Banana is one of the such example. You understand, banana, there is no seeds, so banana is a example of parthenocarpic fruits. In grapes also, seedless grapes, they are also parthenocarpic fruit. Parthenocarpy can be induced through the application of growth hormones, as for example by the application of auxin, right? And such fruits are seedless. Now they becomes seedless because they are developed without fertilization. Without fertilization means ovule is not developed into seed because it has no embryo. Seed offers several advantages to angiosperm. What advantage? First, what is first? Since reproductive process such as pollination and fertilization are independent of water, seed formation is more dependable, right? Is more dependable. First thing is there. Also, seed have better adaptive strategies for dispersal to new habitats and help the species to colonize in other areas, right? Because they have a special dispersal methods, so that means they also colonize in other habitats, means they can disperse, they can we can say they can separate in different places, right? Other areas also, as they have sufficient food reserves, right? Young seedlings are nourished until they are capable of photosynthesis, right? They have cotyledons, that means which store foods, right? Or they have endosperm, remaining endosperm, which we can say right, that is albuminous seeds, right? So they seedlings are nourished, right? Now on their own, the hard seed coat provide protection to the young embryo. First, being product of sexual reproduction, they generate new genetic combination when we can say they leads to variation. Different varieties obtained here, right? Now seed is the basis of our agriculture. Why seed is basis of our agriculture? Because of dormancy. Dehydration and dormancy of mature seeds are crucial for storage of seeds. We can store these seeds for many years also. Store these seeds means these are grains which we eat, right? Which can be used as food throughout the year and also raise crops in the next season. Due to this, which one? Due to these two characteristics, dehydration and dormancy property. Can you imagine agriculture in the absence of seed? No, means we have to, every time we have to sow the seeds. So that is very hard at that time. Or in the presence of seed which germinates straight away soon after the formation and cannot be stored, it is very hard to continue these species. Means in, suppose that different seasons are also there, if they are not stored, means what happens? They will be destroyed, right? How long do the seed remains alive for they are dispersed, right? And this is depend upon their dormancy, right? How long the seeds remain alive after they are dispersed, this period again vary greatly. For different seed, very different is there. In a few species, the seed lost viability within a few months. In few species, few months, right? Already we use this viability in pollen grains, like 30 minutes is there in case of cereals, wheat and rice. Seeds of large number of species live for several years, mostly several years, right? Some seed can remain alive for hundred of years. As for two examples are given, which astonished you. There are several records of very old yet viable seed. The oldest is that a lupine. It is lupine, Lupinus arcticus toward the arc, right? Excavated from Arctic tundra. It is very cold region where every time snow is, that snow covered peaks are there, right? Arctic tundra, what is then? Lupine or Lupinus arcticus, because it is present in Arctic zone. That scientific name is, specific name is also here Arcticus, Lupinus arcticus, right? These seeds germinated and flowered after an estimate record of 10,000 years. This is the record this time also. No one break this one record, right? No one seed, other seed break this reward. 10,000 year of dormancy. 10,000, not only a single thousand. 10,000. You can understand. Means these are at the prehistoric seeds, and now they are germinates. You can, right? A recent record of 2,000. This is not break this 10,000 record, but okay, 2,000 is also very, right? Year-old viable seed is of the date palm. It is of date palm, that is scientific name is Phoenix dactylifera. Phoenix dactylifera, discovered during the archaeological excavation of King Harold's place. When they excavate the King Harold's place, then they find these seeds, right? Phoenix dactylifera seeds, right? And they germinate after 2,000 years, right? Near the Dead Sea. This is called Dead Sea. When you find out this Dead Sea, means no living organisms are that is survive in Dead Sea. That's why it is called Dead Sea, right? It is very, very, very salty. So two important things is given here. Two records are given here. First is here lupin 10,000 years ago, and it is Lupin arcticus, excavated from Arctic tundra in very cold weather. And second is our Phoenix dactylifera or date palm. It is 2,000 years old viable seed. It is excavated in near the Dead Sea, where at King Harold Palace. These are important, right? Okay. Now come to the there. Now we are going to finish this chapter. After completing a brief account of sexual evolution of flowering plants, it would be worth attempting to comprehend the enormous reproductive capacity of some flowering plants by asking the following questions. Now some questions are asking here, right? And you have to give the answer, right? First is here, how many eggs are present in an embryo sac? Can you tell me how many eggs are present in embryo sac? So simply we can say only one egg, right? Here. How many eggs are present in an embryo sac? So we simply said only one egg cell is there. Only one egg cell is there, right? Okay, it is. We can say all the cells they can be act as a egg cell, but simply we have one egg cell, right? How many embryo sacs are present in an ovule? Simply we said them only one embryo sac is present in one ovule, but sometime more than one also present. Okay, polyembryony is there, but it is not a for that means always for many embryo sac is there. Maybe it is we can say advantage due to the adventitive embryony, right? Many embryos are formed. So simply one. It is also only one. How many ovules are present in an ovary? It may be depend upon the ovary, depend upon the variety, depend upon the plant. Maybe more or maybe one. Right? Single seeded means one, and more seeded means more. Like papaya means many seeded plant, many ovules are present in a single ovary. But in case of mango, as I'll tell you, it is only one seed, means one ovule is present. How many ovaries are present in a typical flower? How many ovaries? It is also depend upon the flower. It is apocarpus, syncarpus, or it is a single flower, we can say, right? It is also depend upon the flower. How many flowers are present in a tree? Means flowers means already more flowers are there, right? We can say, and so on. This question is given. So can you think of some plant in which fruit contain a very large number of seed? You can say yes, like a papaya, right? Orchids, it is the maximum. Fruit are one such category, and each fruit contains thousands of seeds. But these seeds are, means if number of seed is very high, that means the size of seed is small. Numbers of seed is very low, the seed size is large, right? Similar in the case of fruits of some parasitic species such as orobranch and striga, right? So many fruits are there, orobranch and striga. Have you seen a teeny seed of ficus? Ficus is a very large tree, right? Banyan, Ficus bengaliensis means banyan tree, but their seeds are very small. Very small seeds means thousands of seeds are produced. Large seed means less number of seeds are produced. How large the tree of ficus develop from the tiny seeds? Very large seed. How many billions of seeds does each ficus tree produce? Many, right? We can say Can you imagine any other examples in which such a teeny structure can be produced, such a large biomass over the years? Right? Our answer is also yes. Like it is only ficus. Ficus stream is not only ficus, that is all the ficus family, that is people, we can say, that is second one is banyan, right? So they have very teeny seeds, but they are that is sequoia is also there, eucalyptus is also there, where teeny seeds are present, but their that means tree are very huge. Now last point, this is the last point in which apomixis and polyembryony is given. Although seed in general are product of fertilization, a few flowering plants such as some species of Asteraceae and grasses have evolved a special mechanism to produce seed without fertilization. That is important point. Means seed are also developed from in the absence of fertilization, we can say, right, that Asteraceae and grasses, right. Asteraceae means what? It is compositae family, and grasses means Poaceae or Gramineae family, and this one is compositae family, right. Grasses have evolved a special mechanism to produce seed without fertilization. Without fertilization, this is called apomixis. What is the meaning of apo? Apo means without and mixis means fusion. Means without fusion a seed is formed, now it is called apomixis, right. What is the fruit production without fertilization is called, without fertilization fruit production is called, it is called parthenocarpy, right. There, thus apomixis is a form of asexual reproduction that mimics the sexual reproduction. There are several ways of development of a apomictic seed. I will tell you, right, after this, after the reading of this stage, I will tell you different ways of apomictic seed. Apomictic means seeds develop without fertilization, right. In some species, the diploid egg cell, why it is diploid egg cell? Sometimes what happens, spore mother cell, megaspore mother cell cannot go into meiosis, but it acts as a megaspore, right. And then when it forms a through a embryo sac and then a egg cell through mitotic division, what happens? The egg cell is already diploid because meiosis is absent here, right. Diploid egg cell, it is called diplospory, right. It is called diplospory. When a, that is we can say megaspore mother cell, directly develop into a egg cell or embryo sac, right. Diplospory without reduction division means without meiosis and develop into the embryo without fertilization, right. What happens more often in many cases like citrus, mango, apocia, onion, these are the example of in which what happens, more than one embryo is present, right. Varieties, some of the nucellar cells, here nucellar cells, they act as embryo, right. Some of the nucellar cells surrounding the embryo sac starts division and forms nucellar cells. Surrounding the embryo sac start dividing, protrude into the embryo sac, they are pushed into the embryo sac, right, and develop into the embryos. Now here what happens, more embryos are formed. More embryo means what? Polyembryony is occurs. In such species, each ovule contains many embryos. Each ovule means each seed contains many embryos. Occurrence of more than one embryo in a seed is referred as polyembryony, and that is called polyembryony. More than one embryo means polyembryony, right. Take out some seed of orange and squeeze them, and then you find out it has more than one embryo is there. Observe the many embryos in different sizes and shapes from each seed. Count the number of embryos in each seed, it is more than one already. What would be the genetic nature of the apomictic embryos? Here apomictic because they are developed from vegetative cells or diploid spore mother, megaspore mother cell, their genetic nature is 2n or also diploid. Right? They are diploid, but they are, what happens here? Can they be called clones? Yes, they are called clones. The population of these that means apomictic embryos, these are called as clones, and each members are called as ramette. Right? Ramette. Each member, and this is population. Population means clones. Hybrid varieties of several of our food and vegetables crops are being extensively cultivated. This time hybrid seeds we are use. Why hybrid seed we use? Because their production is very high. Cultivation of hybrid has tremendously increased productivity. One of the problem of hybrid is that hybrid seed have to be produced every year, because we know in F2 generation what happens, they are separate into 1:2:1 ratio. That one, what happens, their growth, that means their production is decreased. If the seed collected from the hybrid are sown in the plant, in the progeny will segregate. That is, I already tell you, in F2 generation they will segregate. That means the hybrid seeds, they are only once used, right? Because when we use in another generation, what happens? Segregation occurs, and then their product is decreased, and do not maintain the hybrid characters, because here 50% are hybrid and 50% are pure. They are segregated to pure. Production of hybrid seeds is costly, and hence the cost of hybrid seeds become too expensive for the farmer. If these hybrids are made into apomictic by use of apomixis, if hybrid seeds are formed, then what happens? There is no segregation of characters in the hybrid progeny. Then no segregation is there. Because no segregation means then the farmer can keep using the hybrid seed to raise new crop year after year, because there is no segregation, they use for many times, right? And he does not have to buy hybrid seeds every year, right? And because of the importance of apomixis in hybridization or in producing of hybrid seed industry, right, what happened? Active research is going on in many laboratories. They want to form a hybrid seed through apomixis, right, around the world, to understand the genetic of apomixis and to transfer apomictic gene into a hybrid variety, right? Now last point. Here apomixis, right? So in apomixis what happens here? We know that apo means what? Apo means without, and mixis means what? It is fusion. So without fusion or without fertilization, we can say apo means what? It is a Greek word. This one is a Greek word. That means without. So without fertilization, when a seed is developed, then this is called a apomictic seed, right? Here some different terms I am going to tell you about, right, how a polyembryony is formed. First one is here the population is called clone, because they are identical to the mother plant, and there a single individual is called single member. It is called ramette. Ramette. It is identical to the mother plant, because here no variation is there. This apomixis means it is asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction means we can say development of seed through asexual reproduction. Mostly seed are formed after fertilization, right? But here seeds are formed without fertilization. First thing is here diplospory. So what is diplospory? Diplo means diploid, spore means sporophyte. What happens here? Here spore mother cell. When spore mother cell, right, without without reduction division, we can say without meiosis, forms act as embryo, or we can say develop into embryo. Not act as embryo, but it forms embryo sac, right? Act as embryo or meiosis, it forms a embryo sac, right? So what happens here? This spore mother cell, when it without meiosis, it act as embryo, or we can say it forms a zygote, right? That means it is also diploid. It is also diploid in nature. Now this one is called diplospory. Now this is called diplospory, right? And it is diploid 2n because spore mother cell is there. Here fusion is not there, right? Second is here adventitive embryony. Adventitive embryony means what? Here any cell other than except egg cell, right? Or we can say spore, that is megaspore mother cell, right? What happened? Any other cell, either it is, that means either nucellus or integuments, right? Integument means, as for example, in Spiranthrus australis, right? Spiranthrus australis, it any integument cell develop into a embryo, right? Here, as for example, in nucellus we have, it is given in our NCERT, right? In citrus means it is lemon or orange, mango, Mangifera indica, or Opuntia, or onion, many examples are there. Onion, they develop into a embryo like structure, right? So they are also diploid, 2n, this is also 2n, right? So they develop. Here nucellus, if nucellus or integument means what happens here, they are responsible for polyembryony, because not only one nucellus cell, maybe more than one nucellus cell starts division, mitodivision, and forms forms an embryo, and this embryo is protruded into the embryo sac. So this embryo sac contains more than one embryo, that means it forms polyembryony, right? And third one is here apospory also there, apospory. What do you mean by term apospory? Apo means without and spory means sporophyte, right? What happens here? Here without sporophyte means what? Here a gametophyte is developed without sporophyte, means without the reduction division of sporophyte. Now this gametophyte is also diploid, right? Here what is given? We can say here formation of gametophyte directly from sporophyte without meiosis, right? Now this is called apospory, and here also this gametophyte, it is 2n, it diploid gametophyte is formed, that is called apospory. Here reduction division is absent. In all these cases a diploid gamete is formed, right? But no variation, no fusion is there, right? Diplospory, then identity embryony, and apospory also there, right? Now here after, as for example, here also one example, as for example here ranunculus, rubus, these are the example, right, for this apospory, right? These three things are there. Another one is, okay, apospory. Now apogamy is also there, like apospory, apogamy is also there. So here we can say the next one is our apogamy. Here means what? Apo means what? Without Gamy means gametophyte. Right? Here what happens? A sporophyte is developed. A sporophyte is developed, right? Not through the here gametophyte. No, here what happens? Apogamy is not through gametes. Means here gametes. A sporophyte is developed from any cell, but not from egg cell. Right? Here we can say sporophyte is developed. Sporophyte is developed not from fusion of gametes, not from fusion of gamete, right? But any cell of embryo sac, any cell of gametophyte, any cell that is called, it is actually N. This one is haploid. Now here haploid sporophyte is formed. Haploid sporophyte is formed, right? So this one is called apogamy. Apogamy means without fusion of gametes. Apospory means without meiotic division of sporophytes, right? That is called apogamy. Apospory, apogamy. Apospory means what? Development of gametophyte without reduction division through a sporophyte. Apogamy means what? Without fusion of gametes, right? Here they are haploid, they form haploid sporophytes. Another one is our parthenogenesis. Parthenogenesis means what? When egg cell which is already haploid in nature, right? Egg cell developed into a embryo, without fusion or without fertilization, without, we can say, syngamy. Then this one is called parthenogenesis. Here what happens? The plant, this plant is haploid. A haploid individual is formed. That is called parthenogenesis. Parthenocarpy, I did not write here parthenocarpy. A seedless fruit is called parthenocarpy, and parthenocarpy is useless for the fruits in which seed is edible, right? As for example in pomegranate. One term is also here we have to return: anthrogenic plant. Anthrogenic plant. Anthrogenic plant means, look here, anther means what? Male, right? As far as here, if it is actually it is produced in lab, if anther, or we can stamen, right? Anther is developed, develop, develop, right, into a plant. Any cell of anther, we can say not anther, if any cell of anther is developed into a plant, then it is called anthogenic, or we can say androgenic also, right? Plant. It may be haploid or diploid. Haploid means if it is developed from pollen grain, it is haploid, means N, right? And this one is haploid, means N, and if it is developed from, that is tapetum, other cell, that means wall of anther, that means these cells, either from tapetum or their endothecium. Now it becomes diploid. Two types of plants are obtained from anther, and this is called anthrogenic plant. They are also clone, right? But here what happens? It requires culture medium. Without culture medium it is not possible, right? So this is some terms which used for our apomixis, which is used in development of apomixis. Okay, now this chapter is finally completed, and if you have any doubt, you can ask, right? Thanks.